Now it's being recorded. Is the screen seen to you? I hope that you can see the screen. Where we stop. There is. 1 minute. Okay, I hope that now everything is all right. We'll start from the place where we stopped. We talked about process costing, and special situation arises when processes generate incomplete works, which we call working progress, um, or working progress. Both terms are used, but simply speaking, they are incomplete works. Incomplete works. In singular, we use this thing in inventory valuation as nonimi toge, incomplete works. So if they are incompleted, for financial accounting purposes, you can account in the way that you like. But for costing purposes, how are we going to ascertain the cost of a unit? In a particular process, there could be large number of products are being manufactured. Of them, some of the items could be in the form of partly completed, different percentages. Some products may be 10%, 1%, likewise. Some products, when we take a particular product, so again, the cost elements would be material, labor, and overheads. So complicated situation. Practically, it is complicated. Why? Products may be at different completion levels, 10% or 1% to 99%. Still 99%, that is incomplete. So the material utilized for a product which is 1% complete may be totally different from 100% complete, so 99% complete product. So likewise, the other costs applicable, costs such as labor and overheads applicable for unfinished products would be the same. That is the complex situation. But for the simplicity, for the learning purposes, we do not take like this. We make an assumption. We make an assumption that these goods are completed at a particular, like all the goods are completed at a particular level, maybe 10%, 30%, 50%. Likewise, we make it very simple. And again, we make another assumption. Basically, all the raw materials required to produce have been assigned and identified or consumed for that particular product. So these are the two basic assumptions behind the calculation of unit cost in a process when we have working progress. So this particular technique is called equivalent units. Equivalent units. It's simply a mathematical process. So if you look at this picture, you would see on the top part of the picture, it looks like products, maybe cameras or whatever, come within a given time period. So the middle of the picture is denoted by the month of February. In the month of February, there are 8 units. So there are no work in progress, complete units. So therefore, whatever the materials consumed, labor utilized, overheads incurred can be divided by this 8 and ascertain the unit cost. So total product cost in February, as an example, 40,000 divided by 8. The below the graph, you see the same month, February, but you don't have completed products or 8 completed units. How many completed units are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 units. So is it right for us to divide the total cost of 40,000 by 7 or something else? Why? In addition to these completed units, 7, we have 2 units incomplete. 2 units incomplete. One is at 25%, the other one is at 75%. So that is why I just told you earlier, when we take together, so 25% of this particular unit and 75% of this particular unit is equivalent to 1 unit. 1 unit. Is that clear? So therefore, what would be the product cost per unit? That is an assumption. Physically, you don't have 8 completed units. Physically, you have 7 completed units, but technically, you have 8 completed units. 7 completed plus 2 units partially completed. One is 25%, the other one is 75%. When you put together, it is equivalent to 1. So therefore, equivalent unit is a concept. It's not a reality. You don't see equivalent units in an organization. You mathematically calculate it. So therefore, 40,000 is divided by 8. In this case also, still the cost is 5,000 rupees. Here again, you have to understand this. In these two units, here 25, here 75. As I just told you, there could be another product, maybe 50%, 40% likewise. When you do the real work in an organization, when you work, you need to calculate and identify all those units, incomplete units. It depends on the nature of the product, size of the product, cost of the product, and do the calculation accordingly and tell that, okay, this is the uh, equivalent number of units. For example, when you do all the workings, maybe 10 units of 30%, 100 units of 45%, 200 units of 50%, another 1000 units of 60%. Likewise, when you calculate all those things, so you need not to spend that much time. Once you enter all these data, your computers, machines can easily calculate. So it will tell you in equivalent units, how many units are there. Assume that in the real life situation, the real life organizational situation, when we work it out, your percentages you worked out in terms of equivalent units, it will come to 100 units and zero point 0.5 or 100 units and 0.3. What do you do? Do you take 100 units and 0.3 or 100 units? It really depends. If the cost is very significant high, of course you can take the equivalent unit as 100.3, but you can simply round it up. You can say that 100 units. 100 units. So therefore here 25% of one, 75% of one, altogether 1 unit. But when we give this information in your examinations or most of the textbooks, so this is a situation in terms of equivalent unit, it is 1. It is clear. In terms of equivalent unit, it is 1. But physical units, 2. Again, in 2 units, 25 and 75. So in order to avoid unnecessary complication, we can conclude that yes, there are 2 incomplete units at the rate of a completion level of 50%. So that is also equivalent to 1 unit of 25, so 1 unit of 75. Instead of saying like that, we can say that there are 2 incomplete units at the completion level of 50%. So 50% into 2 is 1. So I think that explanation is more than. So same thing is here. I can skip it. Then finally, in order to calculate the cost for the period, divided by equivalent units. Equivalent unit means not only this incomplete one plus the really physically completed one. The previous example here, equivalent units for the month of February is 8. Physically 100% completed 8, partly finished 2, but equivalent unit is 1, therefore 7 plus 1 is 8. So equivalent unit means therefore hypothetical concept. Take this activity 5.6. Quickly work out. I'll give you 2 minutes. Calculate the total equivalent production units and calculate the cost per unit and show the cost distribution between completed and partly completed. If you want to attempt, I can give you time. Otherwise, I can directly go to the. I hope that this time does not permit. I will quickly go to the answer. Okay, this is the answer. Okay. Anyway, so some answers are also there. Good. Yeah, 9,020. Good. And yes, 50%, 2,000 into 50%, that is 1,000. Completed unit 8,000, altogether 9,000 divided by, so total cost is 180,000 divided by 9,000, unit cost is 20. Then this cost is distributed 20 into 8,160, 20 into 1,000, that is 20,000. 160,000 and 20,000 are assigned into finished goods and work in progress. This is the important point I just told you. Complication already I explained you. In real life situation, products may be at different completion level. And again, not only the products may be different, unfinished products may be at different completion levels. In addition, with respect to certain cost elements, for the simplicity, we use 3 cost elements: direct material, direct labor, and overheads. Sometimes, direct material, as I just told you, normally we assume direct materials, even in the case of finished goods or work in progress, fully used. But in the case of labor and other overheads, completion may be different. Labor completion may be 50%, overheads completion may be 20%. So likewise, it varies. So real life, as I just told you, it is really a complicated process. If you have a very good computer program or computer application, that could be values can be ascertained reliably. Otherwise, you will have to face lots of problems. So here we will work out some questions with different percentages, not with respect to different items, but with respect to different cost elements, with respect to labor, with respect to overhead, something like that. Just to show you how it's going to be complicated, right? So to get, if you really want to learn, then you have to read more and work out more questions. Right. So those things I explain you. Quickly look at this activity 5.7. Calculate the cost per unit for both process A and process B. Yes. Process A, process B. Quickly read them. Read the information. And if you like, you can attempt. But resume the recording. Anyway, can't help. Recording was paused. So whatever I talked up to now has not been recorded. So this particular company, there are two processes, process X and Y. Process X and Y. Finished goods of process X are transferred to process Y. And the material is introduced at the start of process X, and the additional material is added to process Y when the process is 70% complete. So that means the cost of additional material introduced in process Y should be applicable only for the finished goods. Conversion costs are applied uniformly throughout the process. The completed units of process X are immediately transferred to process Y, and some information for process X and Y are given. What are they? Opening work in progress of process X, physically 6,000 units but completed at 60%. Here physically 2,000 units completed at 80%. So when you start process X, physically 6,000 units are there, right? The total costs of these unfinished products is 72,000 and 45,000. Altogether 117,900 something. It's the total cost, but the breakup says material cost is this much and conversion cost is that. Why? So different completion in terms of material, 100% labor and all these things we'll see. Process Y, similar information is given, you can check it. Units started during the period. Additional 16,000 units have been introduced. So therefore, physically, you have to understand that in that particular process, process X, 6,000 physical units, partly completed units were there. Additional 16,000 were introduced. Altogether, 22,000 units were processed. 22,000, of which we do not know how many were completed, how many are in the work in progress, how many were lost, and all these things. So for the simplicity, when we talk about this work in progress and all these things, we ignore. We assume that there are no losses. It does not mean that there are. So there could be in real life situation. Here we assume that there are no losses. So you need to know what happened to these 22,000. Of them, it says that 4,000 units are at the end. Then you should know that 6,000 were there at the beginning physically, 16,000 were introduced, altogether 22,000, of which 4,000 are not complete, therefore physically. Then 22 minus 4 should be 18,000, should have been the units, number of units, which have been transferred to the next. Yes, it is correct. You can reconcile it. Total finished goods of this process have been transferred here as 18,000. So here 18,000, opening 2,000, 20,000, of which 8,000 are unfinished. 20 minus 8, therefore 12,000 is the number, the completed units from process 1. So cost values are there. I will simply show you the answer. You independently work it out again and check your answer. Calculate the cost per unit for both process X and Y and prepare process accounts. So same the calculation process is applied. Material conversion, we take completed units 8,000, work in progress 4,000, altogether 22 for material. Conversion cost, will take everything, labor and your weights. Completed 18,000, but only 75% is complete. So therefore, this is the way we have to assign the cost. So per unit per cost is 24.90. Total cost incurred in this process X is during the period 534,900. So how are we going to allocate this cost in? Sorry. Okay, that is easy. Okay, this 534,900 is going to be divided between two: finished goods and work in progress. So easy task is the finished good. Take the total cost, so total unit cost, that is 24.9, multiply it by 18,000 will give you the value of inventory, finished goods. Then the work in progress, 4,000 into 12 and 3,000 into 12.9 will give you this much. This is how the total cost is simply divided, right? Total cost. Then that is how this is going to be made up. You can check. Opening material 72,000, conversion cost was this much, current cost was this much, for material and conversion. So summation of these two, that is total material cost is 264,000, total conversion cost is 270,000. So this is how. So when we take the full value of 534,900, it includes cost incurred during the period plus the opening stock. Process Y. You can notice in the process Y, previous process cost of process X comes in. Here amount is 448,200. You can see it here. Previous process cost transferred 448,200. It is the amount that we calculated here. Value of completed units that would be transferred to process Y. So therefore, this is an introductory cost for process Y. Process Y had opening work in progress. Therefore, for the material, this plus this would be this much. So during the period 12,000, at the end of the period, that is for the process Y, 8,020. This is divided by 20 gives you. So likewise, material cost and conversion cost is calculated. So finally, valuation is done in this way. Full value, that is 51.6 multiplied by this value is the inventory. Process Y, either we do not know the output of process Y would be transferred to process Z or to the stores. It depends. Whatever it is, value of the output, fully completed output is 619,000. Value of the work in progress is 290,000. So they are um, again calculated by using 5 forms. So this is the basic calculation, ascertainment without assuming anything. Now we will split between 5-4 method and weighted average method. So this one is on the assumption that weighted average method. Is that clear? This first part of the calculation has been done on the assumption of weighted average. If it is 5-4 method, carefully look at how they change. The opening cost, material cost, is applicable only for opening work in progress, and that would be, we assume that they are transferred into the finished good. In other words, if you go to this process X, for the material, for the process X, we introduce 192,000. This 192,000 is applicable only for the new products. How do you find it out? So here in process X, total number of completed units 18,000. But under the FIFO method, we split this 18,000 into 12, so yeah, 12 and 6,000. See, so this is how it has been. Right. The question tells you that 18,000 units were produced within the period from the process X. But under the FIFO method, during the period, right? So 18,000, so 6,000 units were incomplete. So therefore, during the period, what was completed during the period were only 12,000. That means during the period, you introduce and complete. So therefore, that particular cost should be applicable only for this 12,000. But with respect to 4,000 work in progress, so therefore this 12,000 incomplete 4,000, therefore 12 plus 4 16. Right? You got it? So with respect to the material cost, current total equivalent units, therefore we have to take only 16,000 and not 18,000. So conversion cost is 225,000. That is also taken in with the same proportion when we take the ending, opening material 4,000 into 60%. So, 4,000, 6,000, you see, 6,000 units at the beginning, 6,000 units were there. 6,000 into 60% means 6,000 into 60% means, oh, yeah, 6,000 into 60% means 3,600. So therefore, out of 18,000, we assume that 3,600 has nothing to do with this. That is why we deduct. Here also, out of 6,000, the opening stock has nothing to do with this. So that is what out of 18, this is removed. During the period, 12,000. So 12,000 plus the 6 becomes 18,000. Here, 14,400 plus 3,600 becomes 18. So this is how the breakup of 18,000. In other words, when we ascertain the cost of 18,000, of which the costs of the goods produced during the period would be separately calculated. So finally, it comes to 24.91, and cost is split between work in progress and the finished good like this. Now, the same process is followed for process Y, and I'll show you these things in the. Sometimes I understand that you may not understand it because we don't have adequate time to take this question one by and show you the calculation. So that's what I just told you, because it cannot be done in this particular lecture. If you have worked out, you could have asked question and you could have easily reconciled. Now, only thing what you can do is you can check these answers with you better independently work out and check it. Under the weighted average method, this is how the process account, so the numbers are shown in the process account and the values are shown in the process account. And please note the value of closing work in progress. This closing work in progress goes here, and this closing work in progress goes here. So that is 86,000, this is 209,000. These two values are, of course, different of when we work it out with FIFO method. Just see, in the case of FIFO method, it is 86,000. This is process X, yes, 86,700, but here 86,790. There's a slight difference that may be, what is the reason? So this is the intelligent question that you should ask. When we follow WIP method, closing work in progress was this much. The completed unit transferred to process Y, this much, 448, 86. But under the FIFO method, more or less the same, right? More or less the same. 534. Under WAC method, 86,700. But under FIFO method, 86,790 only. That is more by 93 rupees. Why? Can someone give me an answer? Why there is no significant difference between the ending work in progress under two methods, whereas you see little significant difference between the work in progress under WAC with respect to process Y, that is 290, and under FIFO it is 270, 20,000 different. Why is that? Can someone tell me an answer? I hope these are the types of questions that you should ask. If the question is not clear, I will repeat the question. I will repeat the question. What is the question? Under two different methods, FIFO and weighted average, there are differences in the closing work in progress and between two methods. Why is that? Can someone tell me an answer? Okay, this is the simple, like this is the learning point, of course. The reason is with respect to process X, actually it had not been much price differences of materials, labor, overheads with respect to process X. But with respect to process Y, it had been price differences with respect to material, labor, and overheads during two periods. That is why in order to learn this thing very well, you better develop a question by yourself, with two scenarios. One is with price changes, the other one is without price changes. When there is price changes, you see the differences. When there is no price changes, no matter what method is adopted, either FIFO or weighted average, you would get exactly the same answer. Actually, that is the learning. If you can do that exercise, that would be much better. If possible, I will give you a kind of example. Maybe next week I will upload in the LMS for you guys to work out. So the process activity point 5.9 answer, I'll show you like this. So we'll upload these answers also in the LMS. I will upload this as a separate slide in LMS. Then you can go through it. So I'm not going to explain, because I know that if you have not done it, no point of just explaining, very hard to understand. Anyway, you better go through these answers. And I would like to quickly go to the last slide before starting CVP analysis, that is today's lesson. You are required to distinguish process costing system with job costing system. So we learned job costing a couple of weeks ago. Process costing now we completed. Simply, difference is in job costing, many jobs, different jobs are taken. Here single product, but it looks to be a little bit homogeneous type. Costs are accumulated by individual jobs different, cost objectives are different. But here, costs are accumulated by departments, processes, sections, likewise. Order costing, job costing, cost sheet is key document controlling, like that document tells you all this information. But here also cost sheet provides you lots of information. But the department production reports and the process, the production reports, process reports, and all those things are going to be vital. The job costing, unit costs are computed by job, um, here unit costs are calculated based on process, based on equivalent units and things like that. So they are the key differences. Apart from these key differences, there could be some other differences as well. So with that, that part is completed. We will take up the next session maybe in 5-10 minutes. Just give you a break. I'll stop the recording.